Today's discussion topic is role of services sector in employment generation. Services sector has got attention in discipline of economics, starting from Adam Smith to Karl Marx, and thereafter Kaldor and all economists suggested their views on services sector. In Marxian economics, there was no such importance of services sector, and services sector was not present in national accounts as well. Kaldor suggested that reindustrialization is the utmost necessary of the economy, where services didn't get that much importance for economic growth and employment generation. But a noteworthy characteristic of the structural transformation of the tertiary or the services sector has been the growth of skill-based and high-value added sector. When the economy transferred from skill-based to knowledge-based and basically services activities, services sector gained the importance. The speedy growth of information communication technology and the knowledge-based economy, services sector got the importance. Now, the growth of high productivity services were there with the transformation of the sector itself. There was a structural change in the economy as a whole. But low productive services are also getting importance with the growth of the economy. And as manufacturing sector growing, the ancillary or complementary services are also growing and having importance in the economy. Particularly, the unorganized sectors are coming into operations, and high employment can be viewed in this particular sector. Now, we are trying to define services. Services sector includes activities that are highly heterogeneous. That is, different types of activities are there in services sector. High productive activities, skill-based activities in information, communication, technology sector, and also a spectrum of low productive activities, caregiving activities, transport activities. These are the low productive activities. So we can see heterogeneity in the sector, which is inbuilt. Now, UN 2001, there is a particular definition for the services sector. The production of services must be confined to activities that are capable of being carried out by one unit for the benefit of the other unit. So, if there is particular services produced by one unit, say the telecommunication service, then that can be benefiting the medical sector as well. So, there is transformation from one unit to the other unit. Now, there are several classifications of services. We will first start with the Cartesian view of services. According to this view, there are three kinds of services: old services, thereafter new services, and complementary services. Now, what is old services? Old services are particularly the domestic services. With the change of mode of production, the importance of these services declined. With the process of industrialization, we can see the declining trend of old services. Now, the new services. According to Fisher's view, new services are basically the medical services, education services, entertainment services, and tourism services. If we go by the Rostovian stages of growth, At the intermediary stage, a very few people can enjoy these services. But at the stage of high mass consumption, the demand for all these services, that is medical services, education services, entertainment services, tourism services, that is all the luxury services, will gain importance. Now we will move to the complementary services. Complementary services, as we have already discussed, it is linked to other sectors, primarily with the manufacturing sector. With the growth of the manufacturing sector, there is a need for some particular services, transport and communications, thereafter telecom services. So complementary services are growing with the rapid growth of manufacturing sector. The distributive services. Under the umbrella of distributive services, transport, storage, communication, thereafter railways, water transport, then pipeline transport, air transport, road transport, communications are coming up. And also wholesale trade, retail trade, imports, purchasing and auctioning. These are all coming under this distributive services. Thereafter, we will move to producer services. Financial institutions, state banks, commercial banks, other financial institutions, insurance, pension funds, these are all under the financial institution and producer services. And also the third one is the personal services, entertainment and recreation services, ownership and dwelling. Thereafter, the social services, public administration and defense, social community and private services, healthcare services, education services, community development services under this particular category. Now, in 1970s and 1980s, we can see the upsurge of trade, hotels and restaurants and transport and communication services. Thereafter, in 1999 to 2000, producer services accounted for about 70% and consumer services accounted for 17% of total services. So, producer services having high income elasticity as well as employment elasticity. We will discuss this further. And the data reflects the robust interlinkage between the manufacturing sector growth and the development of services sector. Because producer services are particularly demanded by the manufacturing sector. Now, we will discuss the transformational sector, the idea of transformational sector. Now, the services sector can be characterized as transformational sector. How? Now, this particular services sector has some characteristics of transformational sector. One is the high productivity. The growth of income and high productivity is a particular characteristic of the services sector. With the rise in income, with the rise in productivity, there will be increase in the demand for services sector, and services sector will be capable of generating employment. Thereafter, the convergence of the sector, domestic and international convergence. What is that? In domestic arena, with the rise in the productivity, the services sector is also growing. And the growth of the services sector is also adjoined or compatible with the growth of the international frontier. The fourth characteristic is the balance or matching between the resource and the sectoral development. With the huge unskilled labor in the Indian economy, services sector is capable of absorbing them. So there is a particular resource matching in this sector. Also, skilled based labors can be absorbed in high valued services. Then there is tradability and replicability in the services sector. Particularly in manufacturing sector, we can see the tradability and replicability, and in trade, hotels, restaurants, real estate, in these subsectors we can see the replicability or tradability. So demand constraints will be no constraint or no bar for the services sector. The services in the aggregate are less skill intensive, and on average 78% of workers in the service sector have at least a primary education and 48% have at least secondary education. Furthermore, a large number of service subsectors including banking, real estate, education, health have significantly higher educational attainment. Now we will discuss the employment elasticity of this particular sector. Before going into the services sector, we will just define what is employment elasticity. Employment elasticity is nothing but the change in employment associated with 1 percentage point change in economic growth. That is, with the growth of the economy, the absorption capacity of the sector will also increase if the employment elasticity is greater than 1. The employment elasticity of growth was 0.35 to 0.44 in 1990s, and it dropped to 0.2 in 2000s. The most recent data from Labour Bureau indicates that after 2011 and 12, the employment elasticity was not that pleasant in Indian economy. Now, we will discuss the covariance between employment and productivity. The employment in the services sector is associated with process of economic development in India. Services employment substantially increased. Now we will support this statement by data. In 1960s, in 1970s, we can observe the percentage of share of services in employment around 20. But afterwards, the percentage of employment for the services sector increased and reached 25%, around 25%. Now, if we look into recent past, starting from 2017 to 2021, we can see there is huge increase in employment in the services sector. Now, here we will discuss the services sector categorically. Financial services, non-financial services, public administrative services. In non-financial services, we can see high rate of growth, whereas in financial services and public administrative services, the growth is not that pleasant. So, we have to increase the capacity of financial services subsector so that huge amount of labor can be engaged in this particular sector. As we know that the absorption in the public administrative services is limited, so the focus will be on the financial services sector. Now, if we go by the industry-wise employment in India, then we can see that in 2018 and 19, services sector is growing much more. Absorption capacity is much more than the manufacturing, construction, all these sectors. The trade and hotels, then other services, these are the subsectors showing a very good result in absorption of labor. Now, here we have to think about one fact, that women participation in services sector is still low and below the mark. So, women participation should be increased in the services sector as well. Now, we will discuss another idea which is known as specialization splintering. The term coined by renowned economist Bhagwati in 1994. What is specialization splintering? Specialization splintering is nothing but the absorption of services sector by other sectors, particularly the industrial sector. The process of industrialization ensues outsourcing activities, because when there is specialization, industries try to involve themselves into particular activities, particular manufacturing activities, using resources for increasing production, and other ancillary services outsourced. So, in this regard, there is a spillover effect of industrialization to the services sector. So, there is also employment generation in the services sector through this specialization splintering. The current growth of service sector in India is based mainly on labor market arbitrage. In moving forward, India can no longer rely on the low cost and low value added services. So, we have to move to high value added services with increase in the knowledge base, improved technology. Therefore, we need solutions that address these. Boosting the manufacturing sector with both direct and indirect spin-off benefits for the growth. Again, the spillover from the manufacturing sector to the services sector. Thereafter, moving up the value chain, especially in case of IT and ITES sector. And then broad basing the Indian services offering platform into sectors beyond the traditional IT and ITES services. Now, equipped with the pandemic experience, the country needs to look into the policies toward employment generation in future. As services sector contributing 55% in GDP growth, the existing or new services will drive the economy in next 5 to 10 years. The services sector in India has the highest employment elasticity. The Skill India program is also trying to enhance the sector's productivity, and Make in India program is also trying to deliver spillover effect in the services sector from the manufacturing sector. Now, way forward with the services sector, as speed is the crux, we need very speedy employment generation. Indian industrial sector continues to persist critical for long-term growth and stability, and will continue to help to develop resilience and shrinking the import situation. So, we can move to a good balance of payments situation. Along with that, services exports are also increasing, and we are having a good foreign exchange reserve earning from the services sector as well. With the advent of automation technologies like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics, it is an undeniable fact that there is a large chunk of employees in the manufacturing sector will continue to lose their jobs. And the services sector must absorb like a sponge all these unemployed people. And with the current pandemic, there is employment opportunities in virtual mode, in work from home. So, all these services will grow with this particular economic situation. Today is the age of information, knowledge and innovation. As well, the building of capacity, building of solutions. So, we need services sector to increase the level of employment. In India, we have seen mushrooming of services like spas, cabs, delivery, cleaning, e-commerce, housekeeping, tours and travels, insurance, investment. So, all these sectors will increase the level of employment for the whole economy. With the rise of various OTT platforms, the entertainment industry is blossoming with various services at different levels required. Similarly, like opening of 24/7 channels in 2000 benefited Indian media. Now even independent online media platforms are there. So in this sector, this entertainment sector, there is also ample opportunity for employment. The next big thing in the technology world is metaverse. Metaverse will be creating lots of job opportunities in the services sector. The service professionals from wide berth of services and fields like safety managers, cybersecurity experts, storytellers, ad blockers, researchers, planners, developers, hardware builders, software engineers, game designers, NFT experts, and blockchain managers, amongst others, will be employed by virtue of metaverse. So we can see huge employment opportunity for all these service providers. And compatible with this employment opportunity, skill and innovation based education should be there. Now, new labor codes and the service sector. With the new labor codes, some of the leading technology companies have been known to have best HR policies and recruiting male and female in the sector. Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana was announced as a part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat 3.0 package to boost the economy, increase the employment generation in the post-COVID and the recovery period. Now we will discuss some obstacles and recovery during the pandemic. According to the World Tourism Barometer of the United Nations, World Tourism Organization, international tourist arrivals declined across the globe. But India, we can see upsurge of international tourists. During January-September 2021, ITA worldwide was 20%, lower than the same period in 2022 and 64% below 2019 levels. India is witnessing increasing trust of people in air travel amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Even hotels have been encashing on the rising travel trend and curating all-inclusive packages. Now, we can see the sector-wise breakup of the Indian IT BPM export revenues. And export revenues are increasing in this particular sector. So, some regulations are also removed to enhance the sector's performance. The new guidelines have explicitly clarified that non-voice-based entities will not be governed by OSP regime, removal of the registration requirement in the telecom sector, removal of the requirement of bank guarantee. Then, the services sector revived over $7 16.7 billion in FDI in the first half of 2021-22, and accounting for 55.54% of total FDI inflows into India. After the United States and China, India has become the world's third largest startup ecosystem.